the black-hearted in the land where just because of your skin, crooked cops make niggas targets.
All right, so we here with the infamous Chace Infinite, Self-Scientific. You know what I mean? So, Chace, you know, we just want to holler at you, check out, you know, your story and the history in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Document what we do here in LA. You know what I'm saying? So, when did you first fall in love with hip hop?
First fell in love with hip hop in 1985.
85. Just listening to it.
Yeah, well, no, I was born in 74. So I think I bought my first record in 83.
Okay.
And then I wrote my first rhyme in 85.
Okay.
I was 11. So, you know, I think it's when I kind of fell in love with the music, just in terms of like, because at the time it wasn't a really big market. It wasn't a lot of fans.
Right.
For the art at the time, you know. So I feel like it's the first time I felt like having access or allegiance to a music like gave me some type of leverage socially. You know what I'm saying? Like just being a brother from the West Coast that was up on a lot of East Coast hip hop early, because I had cousins that was from Jersey.
Okay.
I think in some way that's probably what made me fall in love with it too, right? Like some of that social equity, you know, some of that being able to feel like you're cool for a minute because you knew about Run DMC before the rest of your family friends and shit.
Right.
So I started falling probably around then, about 8:45. Started really falling in love with breakdancing, crazy, all that shit.
What was your first element? Was it writing them rhymes or?
I wrote a rhyme first, but kind of simultaneously was already breakdancing and going to like dances, pop locking and breakdancing. So I definitely started dancing first.
Yeah, that was me too. I was born in 75, but I was breakdancing and writing graffiti before I was an MC. I feel like that's my main element, but
I was never a good graffiti writer, man. Like, so I never felt like I, could step out there doing that shit. But, a lot of my brothers, the early graffiti writers and shit, like, same brother.
Right.
Early graffiti people, shit like that. And then when I started going to school in the Valley, I met a lot of the, UTI, West Coast artists and shit like that, like Sanger and all them dudes. Like,
okay.
But that was later, you know what I'm saying? Early in my development, I was really around a lot of DJs, dancers, and MCs. I started actually dancing first. That was my entry point into the whole shit, really.
Okay. And then how did you get in the game, like with like, getting signed, getting, really pushing it out there with the music and stuff?
Well, Self-Scientific, we had our own label for a long time.
Okay.
But then my cousin, Bigger B, Bigger from San Diego, and he came to live with me and my mother and my father when he got out of college. He went to UNLV.
Okay. Rebels.
Yeah.
Like Sharp.
Bigger was he played football.
Oh, okay.
He was an All-American lineman. He played on the same team as Icky Woods, Randall Cunningham, and Suge Knight. Suge Knight from his team too.
I didn't even know that about Bigger P.
Yeah. Bigger was All-American. William Lennon Keeler Oakland, you can look it up. UNLV All-American tackle. Bigger was 6'3". Shit, he'd have some more. His middle name was Lennon Keeler, so he was extremely agile too. He was fast as shit, jump high as hell, and strong. I seen Bigger P bench press 50 pounds 6 times. Man. Like,
wow.
And dunk. You remember how big he was?
Right.
He went to UNLV, but he came to live with us after he got out of college. And when he got out of college, he was doing insurance and doing security. I don't know. I was telling the story.
But you say he came to live with y'all.
I don't know why though.
No, I was just saying, you said Self-Scientific had your own label.
Oh, so Bigger. He started working at Loud Records. Carmelita Sanchez and him went to college together.
Okay.
Carmelita Sanchez was already working in the music industry. She worked at Jive and then worked at Loud. Carmelita. A lot of people don't know this, but Carmelita Sanchez is the person that gave Bill his entry into the music industry. He was already doing like bouncing and doing security shit like that. That's how he met Orlando.
Okay.
That he did Unity with. But Carmelita, who was his friend from college, got him a job at Loud Records.
Okay.
So when Bigger got the job at Loud, that's when he became the legend everybody knows now. And Bigger actually was the one. We was already putting out 12 inches like on our own, but Bigger was like our manager that nigga. He was so known in the industry, and he got us a deal for Self-Scientific.
Okay.
For Loud, we had a single deal. So they probably kind of gave us like our first notoriety outside of like just right here in the city. But it was because of Bigger.
That's right. So Self-Scientific, man, like for us, I know growing up, it was like some of the only like LA music that was really dropping the science, like really coming with that Nation of Gods and Earths and all that type of knowledge. Like, how did you get into that wisdom? You know what I mean, being from the West Coast.
Well, first of all, my family.
Okay.
Yeah. My aunt, Claudette Marie Muhammad, mother, my father, my aunt Claudette Marie Muhammad was the chief protocol Mr. Farrakhan. So the first 6 lessons of the Nation of Islam, I had a pretty intimate relationship with because of my family.
Okay.
And then in terms of the Nation of Gods and Earths, a couple people, one brother in particular, Universal God of Law, one brother from Pomona, used to be from build out Pomona. We came in a relationship in the early to late 90s. He kind of gave me some enlightenment in regards to the Nation of Gods and Earths in particular. But from the time, from about 1989 until now, it was kind of, Islam has been within my family and then just a real interest of mine just in general. So it comes from brothers like Universal God of Law, my aunt Claudette Muhammad, and my father, rest in peace.
Okay, word. So, who would you say was like when you was coming up that really made you as an MC? Like, who was your biggest influence? You know what I mean? Who was like when you heard him, you was like, I want to do that.
Well, coming up, my biggest influence was Rakim, probably at first. Right, and then all over the place, man. I'm an MC nerd, so
Right.
I always like brothers that have big voices. Chill Rock G was an influence over here. Said G from Ultramagnetic. We got background noise up the park.
Yeah.
RJ! Turn it down, man. Yeah. Said G from Ultramagnetic, Chill Rock G, earlier, Rakim, of course. I always like brothers who had big voices, voices had presence. And then I began to appreciate MCs for what, how they put together thoughts and shit like that. So it began to get all over the place. So it's a fine line between inspiration and appreciation. It's not too many MCs I can still get inspired by, but I can appreciate a lot of them.
Right. I feel you. So, like, as far as the music, what does it do for you? Like, what is why is it so important to you? What does it do for you personally? You know what I'm saying?
The music's important to me because, for me personally, it saved me. I couldn't do a lot of shit. So and then I hate to refer to it as a culture because, I think it's the lowest common denominator in the rest of the world, right, to sell a product. So we got to be careful calling this shit a culture. But I love the music because of the environment they created, right? Like you see religions, organizations, all type of shit, right? And do outreach and try to make humanity come together a little bit and try to get a little closer and shit like that. I feel like hip hop, not even trying as that, without even having that as main objective, has done a lot of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
So, and there's something divine within that. So, I don't know, I care about the music because I've been alive long enough to see the difference it's made in a lot of my brothers.
So, as far as like the LA history goes and stuff, like you know, where was like, I guess, you know, the people who you, like you said, Bigger B, you mentioned Bigger B, other people, like a lot of people who like really helped you get it cracking out here and stuff, or that you know,
I give credit to everybody that came before us, you know. I think about Born on Law, Movement X, King Born, the brothers who actually, you know, you know, the brothers that kind of like were doing, if you want to put it, I guess, in a category, which I always love to do, like doing the shit that they claim that we're known for. Like, you know, we weren't the first people from LA.
Conscious.
Yeah, we weren't the first brothers from LA to do that type of shit.
Right.
There's a whole lineage of that shit, you know that, but it don't get exposed that often. So, yeah, I think our community was there. Like, you know what I'm saying? The people that, you know, to the left, it was people that came to Project Glow, Good Life and shit like that had appreciation for our music. And then to the right, you know, the developing conscious community, particularly the Islamic conscious community in Los Angeles, which, you know, at one point had a stronghold on the movements of hip hop in LA.
Right.
You know, before everything transitioned to Hollywood, we still had Akeem Ulan and Water the Bush and whatever before it was Hollywood. You know, United Nations and all that shit. Even then, you know, that shit was kind of, you know, it was governed.
Yeah,
by,
LA was a different.
It was governed by. It's because it was like all the people doing the clubs in was like Emperor Al and Utaka and Ice-T. People that was from Rhyme Syndicate.
African style.
African people that was from Rhyme Syndicate and the extension Ice-T, which was, to be honest, the West Coast chapter of the Zulu Nation.
Right.
So when you had the Zulu Nation kind of running the clubs or organizing the nights for hip hop in LA, shit was a little different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I remember, you know, we used to be like at Guadalinda's, the Far Side and all them would be dancing even before they were famous, you know what I'm saying?
so that's really was
Steam Team, all that stuff.
That was our community. That's where Self-Scientific came out of. And at the time, because this is a traditional car and gangbang lifestyle city,
Right.
like, that was some alternative shit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, all used to come with us like, y'all party with white bitches. Like, this Mexicans here dancing and shit, all this shit cool. Like, that was the whole thing. Like, shit we was doing was like so different from the environment we was actually like from.
Yeah.
We was weird niggas. Like, oh shit, y'all hang out with the weird niggas, spitting in your head, spray painting your clothes, shocking out, doing all that shit.
Right.
But that was the community that Self-Scientific came from.
Word, yeah, definitely. So, what would you say, like, what's been like the highlight for you in your career?
Helping
Like the
other
highlight
artists, crazy
Helping other artists.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's been, I think everything we did in Self-Scientific kind of prepared me for everything I have done since then. Like, you know, if I didn't go through so much as an independent artist, put out my own shit, you know, if I didn't go through so much trial and tribulation, disappointment and shit like that as an independent artist, it would be hard for me to tell a motherfucker how to navigate that shit. So I probably got, and because, you know, you get to a point where everybody get fatigued, right? Like, you invest your time, energy, and your shit, and you feel like at some point you deserve the money and recognition for the shit. I'm not above that, right? I went through that shit considerably, and the fact that you able to help somebody else become a star or contribute to, you know, in some ways that was like a little bit of vindication for me. Like, okay, well, shit, at least I know I'm not just lost within this shit, giving my life into it without changing my immediate, you know, circumstances. You know what I'm saying? So that was, you know, for me, it took forever to get to that point, but that's probably the most gratifying shit out of it. That, and when people actually feel like they're inspired by some music you put out.
Yeah. I know, you know, like you mentioned, Born Alive, you rule, you know, I know Self-Scientific was definitely an inspiration for me as an MC growing up, Project Load, and doing our thing. You know, I was always, you know, they would always come at me with the white jokes or the fat jokes or something. I would always give them that conscious shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
That hardcore Rasta conscious hip hop. And I think, you know, if it wasn't for the influence of all you guys that I grew up around, I wouldn't have been so solid in that.
Right.
But at least on the microphone, even if I was the lifestyle, I wouldn't have been able to Keep that science, you know what I'm saying? So, so we touched on it a little bit. How has the industry changed? You know what I'm saying, over the years? I know you know, at this point, I know you was before you was managing ASAP and some other people. Like, how have you seen the industry change over time?
It probably has really changed in terms of like how you get paid. You know, it's still an incredible opportunity to get money, but it's changed in terms of how you get paid. You know, it's the opportunity there to access is a little bit easier for fans to artists, but how you get paid, like the streaming shit is a little crazy. You know, we used to complain about how much you used to get paid per CD before, and now motherfuckers would kill to get $4 or $5.
Right.
Only because the streaming and shit has changed so much. But then streaming is, you know, once you hook your audience, it's a whole nother game, man. People getting really rich off of that shit. So, how's it changed? It's faster. You know, the cycles of influence, the cycles of, you know, before it was everything come around every 10 years. Now it's like every 2. You know what I'm saying? Some shit comes back. Some shit is vintage every fucking old schools. You know, 2 years. If you're in the game 2 years, you OG. And nowadays, you know, shit like that's changed. How people, consumer culture changes in general. Like, you know, just the fact that we used to collect bodies of work. Me and you, when we bought albums or CDs or tapes, we was collecting body work. We couldn't wait for your album to come out. The single was cool, but it was only really represented what we might get in that album. And that's when we looked at albums like comic books, like how we got down, like, you know, we can break down a motherfucker's album song by song from our generation.
Right.
Very few motherfuckers nowadays even know the album. You know, they take individual songs from the album, put them on playlists. So the way that they engage with the music is totally different. It makes it more disposable because it's like, music is for a purpose. You know, I'm cooking playlists. I'm working out, working playlists. You know what I'm saying? Working out playlists. I'm chilling with my girl. You know, love song. Whatever the fuck it is. Everything is. Music became, and we were getting like that kind of thing when you look at it. That's what compilations kind of were. The fact that compilations were becoming so popular at the time in the 90s, shit like that. That was a precursor to the playlist and shit like that because you got to take individual songs and make it for a mood rather than you actually invest in the artist. So, I mean, you know, so much shit has changed. Really, like, and then we lost, you know, the tactile approach to music, meaning it's very, very seldom you know, touch it. You know what I mean? It's something that exists in the cloud. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. You don't do this. You don't hit the button. You know what I mean?
And even even nowadays in this pandemic, it's like changed as far as the live shows. You're not seeing people live.
You're not people live. You know what I'm saying? To the screen. Yeah. So everything. To be honest, everything changed. Nothing's the same, really, except the fact that people still put emotions to, you know, record it.
How did you get into the whole like management game, doing that type of thing?
I got into the management game originally through DJ Khalil, my partner at Self-Scientific. Khalil, you know, began to get really popular. First production, an artist named Brooklyn, from Brooklyn, female MC, and singer was dope as shit. She was signed to Dr. Dre. And Mike Lynn, and you know, Khalil produced some shit for Brooklyn because he knew our manager. And Mike Lynn, who worked for Dr. Dre, heard this shit, was like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Khalil got the opportunity to do a 10-song production deal with Dr. Dre. And because we were both, you know, I was working in the music industry and shit like that, so we, of course, we've always been working together. We were partners. So he asked me to help him negotiate the deal or manage him. And me and Zach Katz, who at the time was my lawyer for as an executive, started managing DJ Khalil and, you know, negotiated this 10-song deal with Aftermath, and he's been working with Dre ever since. You know, doing that shit. So that's what started me in the management game. I was still an executive and only really worked with Khalil and Strong Arm Steady, asked me to manage him for a while and exhibit for a brief minute. And then, you know, who else? Like,
talk about that for a minute, man, because I know people. I hadn't even thought about to ask you about that. I know that was a whole movement for a while. A lot of people were into that steady game. You know, from Phil to Kronza and all of them. How did all that happen?
We was all hanging out with my ex a lot. Well, how it started was we was all hanging at the Hudson, which was on Hudson and Dockwater. There was a duplex that a lot of brothers that were in the barbershop MCs back in the day lived at, you know what I'm saying? And it became like a place that all the homies at one point lived at. Crondon had a spot, so it was upstairs and downstairs. It had the whole duplex. But downstairs, it was beefing and low and Dread and a bunch of the homies from barbershop living downstairs. Fleet was all living downstairs. And upstairs was Crondon, Field Agony, but a bunch of motherfuckers. So the house was just full all the time. And, at the time, there was no real representation from the West Coast on mixtapes. I think maybe Warrior, Shiite was starting to phase out. Warrior was the only person really doing from LA.
Right.
And mixtapes on the mixtape circuit constantly. So, we was all kicking together all the time. So Crondon and Phil built a studio at the upstairs, and just everybody just started every day. We'd be up there smoking, hanging out, chop it up, and making these tapes. And Phil and Crondon really organized it into like a business. And they started, Strong Arm Steady was a collective thing, but they really organized it as a business. And to where everybody would, start showing up and making these mixtapes. So that's how Strong Arm Steady started. It was Cron, and then Mitchie Slick, who was coming down all the time. I told you we was hanging around Exhibit a lot. And then Mitchie Slick and Reese Cup from Leimert Park used to come down here all the time. But Reese Cup was working security and basically really helping X. And Mitchie and Reese were the same hood. Okay. So Mitch would come down and just kick it with us all the time. Mitch was an incredible MC. Triggeration Station was already like a fucking legendary classic in San Diego. I got family from San Diego, big, and my whole family's from Vegas, the projects, same projects Mitchie's from, so we just, everybody was like, and him and Crondon and Phil, everybody became real cool. They formed Strong Arm Steady. Me and Planet Asia was obviously involved. We kind of were doing, separate shit already. I was already kind of transitioning on my way to New York. So that's why I'm less involved on the core albums, but I'm always on the albums because we was like, not core members, but affiliated members of Strong Arm Steady. And that shit, it became a phenomenon, man. Like, for like 3-4 years, man, I can't think of how many mixtapes brothers put out, but them shits definitely became a force to be reckoned with in LA before, TDE and a lot of the brothers started really taking off, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So I know ASAP is one of the big names. Who else have you managed?
Well, I signed Playboy Cardi to Og. He was actually furnished to my company for a while. ASAP managed him, ASAP Rocky, and ASAP Mob. I managed Benny the Butcher, Westside Gun, number 7.
Oh, wow.
Georgia and Muldrow.
Georgia is a force. Shouts out to Georgia, my man DeClain.
Yeah, for sure. Shit. Yasin Bey, man.
Yasin?
Yasin.
Okay.
On Select. That's about it.
That's what's up. So I won't hold you too much longer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what else. What was like the most difficult, like overcoming obstacles, you know what I'm saying? The most difficult shit you had to deal with through these years?
Besides the emotional ups and downs, just being a human, man, like really the hardest thing to deal with is like I do everything, I'm self-funded, so shit, it's finding the funding to do all this shit. I be having, real visions and plans and trying to do shit, but there's never enough money to make all this shit happen, so you gotta figure out like what to really, what to pour your energy into, the shit you can do. Because some of this shit I just don't have no resources for.
Right.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Word. So, any advice for newcomers in the game, or
Not all my advice for anybody, newcomers, all comers, is just make sure you would do it for no money, because there's a good chance you won't make shit in this shit. But if you stay diligent, consistent, and you at least get the gratification of knowing that you put your thoughts into the world. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And that's the most important part. Too many people be focused on money.
Right. Okay. So, you got any future goals you got? I mean, you said you got a million goals, a million ideas. So we won't get into that. But any future goals with the music? Any new projects? Things you got?
Self-Scientific. Hopefully, we get this project out before the end of the year. We're talking about December 21st. And then I'm trying to turn these Harun Coffee shops into markets. Like, you know.
Okay.
We live in a food desert here in South Los Angeles. Is 60.
How many coffee shops you got besides this one?
Just this one.
Okay.
But I'm trying to open another one and turn, you know, both of these into markets, you know, neighborhood markets, you know, walkable markets but there's, you know, that don't look like a liquor store. Like, you know what I'm saying? We can actually get vegan, vegetarian, organic options for, you know, a really good convenience store. Like they got in New York, you know, bodegas and shit, but from a perspective of somebody that's conscious about what they put in their body. Because we live in a food desert, and there's only 64 motherfucking supermarkets basically in southern Los Angeles, you know, a lot of which don't, you know.
So let the people know where we at, you know, Harun Cafe, with the address.
We are Harun Coffee, 4336 Degnan Boulevard, right, Leimert Park, California. It's in the Crenshaw district, but it's it's our own little planet right here, and it's a little enclave where, you know, motherfuckers really care about each other, so come through.
Yeah, Leimert Park, this is where we keep the culture alive, you know what I'm saying?
You feel me?
The OG Panther elders call it Africa Town.
Africa Town. That's right. That's what the Panther elders call it. So we gotta respect that. It is Africa Town. Man, just make sure y'all come down to Harun Coffee. That's it. Come down to Harun Coffee. Shout out to everybody in the village. And yeah, shout out my man, Last Man.
All right, we appreciate you, Chace.
Likewise,
Thank you, man. Much love, always.
I align with divine energy every time. Harness the power of words written in rhyme. Simple as plucking grapes from a vine. I produce fruit, fruition form deep in the mind. A couple screws loose,